Long pause. Late 19th century in a dimly lit apothecary workshop. Glass vials line wooden shelves. Scribbled labels prometum, cures, a restoration. In 1886, a wounded Confederate veteran turned pharmacist named John Stith Pemberton concocts a syrup intended as a brain tonic and digestive aid. Pausa dramatica. Pemberton himself suffers morphine dependency after battlefield injuries, seeking relief. He blends coca leaf extract and cola nut infusion with sweeteners and carbonated water, believing he has forged a remedy. Pausa. Beneath this facade of healing lurks cocaine and caffeine, potent psychoactives that in small doses mask pain and awaken senses. In an era free from strict regulation, patent medicines thrive on bold claims rather than evidence. Entrepreneurs pounce on public desperation, selling elixirs often dangerous or ineffective and .wikipedia.org. Pemberton's creation, initially called French wine coca in homage to popular tonics, becomes embroiled in prohibition. When local laws ban alcohol, he replaces wine with carbonated water, but the bitterness demands massive sugar to mask flavor. The result, a sweet, stimulating drink cloaked as remedy. Before long, the name morphs to Coca-Cola, hinting at its two core ingredients, coca leaf and cola nut, though the company would later deny active cocaine remained. Historical records confirm cocaine traces persisted in early formulations until approximately 1903, southernliving.com. Pemberton drinks his own potion, believing in its virtues, yet becomes ensnared by dependencies he sought to cure. His personal decline parallels the drink's paradox, marketed as healthful, yet quietly addictive and potentially harmful. He sells rights for a modest sum shortly before death in 1888, unaware that his dark elixir will become a global symbol. What horrors and ambitions lie embedded in that first syrup? What price did consumers unknowingly pay? And how did a wounded pharmacist's desperate search for relief birth an empire built upon sugar, stimulants, and illusion? The origin story reveals a bitter seed planted beneath saccharin's surface. In the next chapter, we follow a ruthless marketer who transforms this shaky concoction into ubiquitous icon, wielding visibility as weapon. But at what ethical cost? Sombria Trilha começa. End of the 19th century. The syrup exists but languishes as a regional curiosity. Enter Asa Candler, an ambitious, workaholic entrepreneur who acquires Coca-Cola rights cheaply, reportedly for around $2,300, Coca-Cola-company.com. He sees not a medicine but a brand ready for saturation. With cold precision, he floods pharmacies, barns, billboards, and urban streets with the logo. Free coupons delivered to local patrons, promotional calendars, branded merchandise. Candler weaponizes repetition until the name Coca-Cola invades every gaze. Yet this omnipresence conceals strategic manipulation. The beverage sheds its medicinal guise to become an emblem of refreshment and happiness. Early advertisements still hint at brain tonic virtues, but Candler pivots to positioning Coke as a pleasurable indulgence for all, divorcing it from questionable health claims, GeorgiaHistory.com. Meanwhile, he orders destruction of records and signatures under suspicion of forged share acquisitions, burying inconvenient evidence to consolidate control. Contracts vanish in flames to hide deals that cement monopoly. This is corporate conquest, not by product superiority but by relentless branding and psychological occupancy of minds. Every barn painted, every glass given free, carves the logo into public consciousness. Yet beneath the festive slogans lies a stark truth. Sugar-fueled drink with stimulant roots promoted via manipulation rather than transparency. As the brand rises, só cresce o potencial de mascarar perigos de consumo e dependência. The question echoes: at what point does visibility become coercion? And when a populace trusts a ubiquitous logo implicitly, what hidden costs accumulate? Pause final. Next, wartime expansion exploits patriotism as cover for global conquest. The empire built on messages of joy now harnesses conflict to spread its reach. Sons de marcha levemente distantes. World War II engulfs continents in fire and fear. Amid rationing and scarcity, Coca-Cola launches a calculated campaign. Insists that refreshing soldiers is essential to morale. They lobby U.S. authorities for sugar ration exemption, arguing a bottle of Coke for every man in uniform wherever he is, whatever it costs. Facebook.com. Government exceeds. Sugar quotas diverted. Bottling plants erected near front lines and allied territories. Soldiers clutch cold bottles as fleeting taste of home. Propaganda posters exalt Coke as symbol of American spirit. Beneath patriotic veneer lies strategic dominance. Every bottle cements brand loyalty among troops who share drink with locals, facilitating global penetration disguised as benevolence. In Axis territories, substitutes emerge. German bottling. Executives create Fanta from leftover scraps to maintain presence despite embargoes. Facebook.com. Thus, the brand thrives on both sides of conflict, prioritizing market foothold above moral consistency. After the war, Coke stands as cultural emblem worldwide, exported via wartime networks and soldier advocacy. Yet the moral ledger is stained. Expansion fueled by wartime politics, manipulation of patriotic sentiment, alliances that blur ethics. When beverages become instruments of soft power and economic infiltration, what responsibility resides with a corporation camouflaging commercial conquest as morale boost? The empire, forged in conflict's crucible, is now poised for mass consumption, but the shadows of wartime tactics linger. Next, the hidden price of sweetness as health crises loom. Tom Grave, Batitas tenues. As decades pass, medical science uncovers alarming correlations. Excessive sugary beverage intake linked to obesity, type 2 diabetes, dental decay, metabolic disorders. Cambridge.orgacademia.edu. Yet Coca-Cola wields vast resources to shape the narrative. Fund research networks to downplay sugar's role, shift blame onto lack of exercise, influence public health discourse through sponsored studies and partnerships. Cambridge.org. Lobbyists infiltrate legislatures, blocking sugar taxes and stricter labeling laws. Marketing persists in projecting wholesome images, families gathering, athletes in victory, youth in vibrant scenes, while behind glossy veneer, hidden data shows rising health burdens. They retain caffeine in formula under taste pretext, though blind tests reveal negligible flavor difference without it. Yet caffeine's mild stimulant effect fosters habitual consumption, especially among younger demographics. Subtle priming ensures daily rituals: morning soda, mid-afternoon pick-me-up, celebratory toast. The corporation maintains that moderation is key, even as ubiquity of Coke in stores and vending machines normalizes near-daily intake. Public health warnings emerge but face pushback from industry-funded counter-narratives. The populace stands torn. Attraction to familiar sweetness conflicts with awareness of health risks. When a brand sells happiness in a bottle, but data reveals mounting costs in human well-being, who bears accountability? And can an empire built on sugar pivot ethically without forfeiting profits? Next, we examine how thirst for resources amplifies controversies over water and environment. In vulnerable regions, thirst becomes battleground. Coca-Cola's voracious water needs for bottling plants strain local supplies. In Kerala, India, villagers accuse the company of draining wells, leaving farmland parched and contaminated by waste sludge purported as fertilizer. TheGuardian.com. Tests reveal toxic residues in groundwater. Crops wither. Livelihoods collapse. Similar dramas unfold elsewhere. Latin American communities struggle against powerful bottling interests backed by political favors. Official statements trumpet water stewardship and sustainable practices, yet independent studies expose gaps. Permitted extraction quotas overshadow ecological limits. Wastewater treatment fails to remove harmful byproducts. Harvard.auburn.edu. When corporate interests secure water rights over ancestral communities, moral lines blur. Whose needs prevail? Global brand expansion or human survival? Downstream rivers carry effluents. Toxic sediments infiltrate soils. Fishermen and farmers watch their worlds dry. Families battle illnesses linked to polluted water. The brand's image remains untarnished in glossy ads, while real suffering persists off camera. This is the dark calculus: short-term profits extracted alongside groundwater, fueling growth but leaving scars on earth and bodies. When thirst for market share outweighs respect for ecosystems and human rights, how can redemption arise? Pause a final. Next, we delve into shadows within factories, labor conflicts, and silenced voices. Behind the facade of gleaming bottling plants and cheerful advertising lies a terrain of fear and intimidation. Workers in various regions have sought to organize for fair wages and safe conditions, yet their demands often meet with unseen reprisals. In Colombia, trade unionists employed at Coca-Cola bottling facilities have faced threats, kidnappings, and even assassinations attributed to paramilitary forces allegedly linked to local bottling operations. Wikipedia.org, theguardian.com. Families of murdered union leaders endure trauma as calls for justice vanish into corridors of impunity. Although Coca-Cola's global headquarters claims that bottling plants operate independently, the brand's influence and economic power cannot be disentangled from the violence that silences dissent. Official statements emphasize independent franchise operations and adherence to local laws, yet testimonies and court filings paint a darker picture of collusion or willful blindness when violence erupts against workers seeking basic rights, business human rights. Corporatecampaign.org. The discrepancy between a smiling logo and shuttered union offices echoes through communities. A veneer of happiness masks suffering in the shadows. In these factories, assembly lines hum as glass bottles glide past, but in the corridors whispers of fear circulate. Workers glance over shoulders, uncertain if the next complaint will mark them for reprisal. In some cases, security personnel or outside forces act with tacit approval to crush organizing efforts. Investigations and lawsuits, such as Sinaltrainal Coca-Cola, have attempted to bring accountability under U.S. courts via the Alien Tort Claims Act, alleging that bottling subsidiaries contracted with or directed paramilitary security forces responsible for violence against union members. Wikipedia.org business, human rights. Org. These legal battles expose how a global brand supply chain can intersect with local power structures, producing catastrophic human costs. Meanwhile, in boardrooms thousands of miles away, executives evaluate quarterly profits and brand perception metrics. They may distance themselves rhetorically from local violence by citing legal separation between the parent company and franchisees. Yet the global reputation of Coca-Cola suffers as investigative reports, documentaries, and activist campaigns, e.g., Killer Coke, keep these stories alive. When social media amplifies voices of survivors and families, the brand's image of universal joy clashes with the reality of suppressed worker rights. The fundamental question emerges: can any corporation thrive on mass consumption while allowing or failing to prevent violent suppression of its labor force? And who bears moral responsibility when local actors invoke a powerful brand's name as shield for atrocity? My pause. As viewers hear these accounts, imagine the tension on factory floors, the clatter of machines juxtaposed with the hush of intimidation. Contrast this with global ad campaigns depicting Coca-Cola as a unifier of people, an emblem of happiness. That stark dissonance is the heartbeat of a dark empire. Every bottle poured carries echoes of those who labored, under threat to produce it. Long pause. And yet the brand persists, dominating shelves worldwide. Does consumer indifference or ignorance perpetuate these injustices? Or can awareness and activism compel genuine reform? In the next chapter, we examine how even the deepest emotional bonds between consumer and brand can be tested and weaponized in surprising ways. Somber tone, slow build. Early 1980s. Coca-Cola faces intensifying competition from rival cola brands leveraging blind taste tests and shifting consumer palates. Executives pore over market data indicating that a sweeter formula might outperform the classic recipe in controlled tests. Driven by numerical evidence, they conceive a radical change, a reformulated beverage, New Coke, positioned as the next evolution of a century-old icon. Launch announced in April 1985 amid confident declarations of superior taste. Yet beneath corporate confidence lies a miscalculation. The bond between consumer and original formula transcends mere flavor. When New Coke arrives on shelves, the backlash erupts. Letters, phone calls, media uproar. Devoted drinkers feel betrayed, as if a cherished ritual embedded in personal and collective memories has been vandalized. First in 79 days, the company concedes the original formula returns as Coca-Cola Classic, while New Coke quietly fades. This reversal becomes legendary, a cautionary tale of how emotional attachment can override purported better data. Let us dissect the darkness within this saga. On paper, blind taste tests showed New Coke beating both original and competitor in manysampleshistory.com. But consumers' loyalty was not rooted in momentary taste preference. It was woven into identity, nostalgia, and daily rituals. Coke was present at family gatherings, celebrations, heartbreaks, a constant companion across generations. Altering the formula severed an almost sacred bond. The fury was not merely about sweetness, it was about perceived erasure of personal histories tied to the brand. When the public rose up in protest, Coca-Cola's decision-makers experienced shock. How could logic fail so spectacularly? The episode exposes a dark truth. In the realm of mass branding, data-driven strategies can founder against intangible forces of collective memory. The aftermath carried a dual edge. For a fleeting moment, the company endured reputational peril, yet the reversal produced a euphoric surge. Reintroduction of classic Coke triggered an outpouring of relief and renewed devotion, reinforcing brand loyalty more fiercely than before. This emotional pendulum swung from outrage to elation, forging an even deeper attachment. Some analysts speculate that New Coke's failure and subsequent rebound might have been partially orchestrated to galvanize consumer passion. The company denies this. Regardless, the narrative endures. Tampering with a beloved tradition invites rebellion that can reshape brand mythos. In the shadows of this marketing misstep lies a potent lesson. Nostalgia wields power beyond rational persuasion. It can be weaponized, intentionally or not, to bind audiences to a product. But when wielded without caution, it provokes revolt. For empire builders and brand architects, the New Coke saga signals danger. Data-driven innovation must account for emotional landscapes. Altering core offerings may rupture deep-seated bonds. Yet nostalgia itself can be harnessed to defend the status quo or to resurrect lapsed affinity. The darkness here stems from the manipulation of collective memory, stirring anger to later transform it into renewed loyalty. Such tactics tiptoe on ethical boundaries. Is provoking consumer outrage to foster deeper attachment justifiable? And who decides when the ends, stronger brand devotion, justify the means? As we move forward, witness how the brand contends with rising health and social criticisms, seeking diversification while the ghosts of past miscalculations linger. Next chapter, the survival game of shadow diversification, where new products emerge under the weight of historical controversies. Ambient low rumble. As health controversies and regulatory pressures mount, linking sugary drinks to obesity, diabetes, dental decay, Coca-Cola confronts existential questions. How to maintain growth when the core product's virtues are under siege, diversification. But the path is strewn with pitfalls and echoes of past shadows. The corporation launches water brands, teas, juices, functional beverages marketed as healthier alternatives. Yet some initiatives stumble. Premium bottled water criticized as overpriced tap water. Recalls occur when contamination emerges. Communities question authenticity of healthy claims, science.org. Simultaneously, exclusive contracts in schools and venues ensure brand presence from childhood onward, perpetuating reliance on carbonated drinks under another guise. Sports sponsorships and cultural events reinforce an image of vitality, even as scientific consensus warns of health risks. Time.com. Internal R&D departments race to create novel offerings, low-sugar variants, zero-calorie sweeteners, vitamin-fortified drinks. Marketing campaigns depict active lifestyles and happiness, overshadowing concerns about artificial additives and lingering environmental impacts. Yet every new product must contend with consumer skepticism born from past revelations. Can a company once accused of downplaying health risks now be trusted to produce wholesome beverages? Meanwhile, environmental controversies persist. Water extraction for bottling continues to strain local ecosystems, despite CSR reports claiming sustainable water management. Independent investigations reveal gaps. Permitted quotas may overlook ecological realities. Wastewater treatment often fails to remove all harmful byproducts, leaving communities to grapple with pollution and scarcity. Pubs.org. Thus, diversification efforts risk perpetuating earlier harms under new labels. The survival game unfolds in shadow. Brand teams craft compelling narratives of innovation and health, while legal and compliance units monitor potential liabilities. Lobbyists defend interests against sugar taxes and stricter labeling laws. Partnerships with health organizations create veneer of proactive engagement, though critics note conflicts of interest when Coca-Cola funds research aimed at downplaying beverage risks. UCS.org. Each strategy involves delicate balancing, projecting genuine commitment to well-being, yet safeguarding profit margins tethered to beverage consumption. The darkest tension arises when diversification appears as superficial remedy, launching a healthy line without addressing root issues in core business. Consumers increasingly demand transparency. What water sources are used? How are supply chains managed? What labor standards apply across global facilities? When answers ring hollow, trust erodes. On digital platforms, activists and journalists surface past transgressions, environmental protests, labor disputes, health studies funded to obscure sugar harms. These revelations circulate rapidly, challenging marketing narratives. Coca-Cola's crisis teams scramble to manage reputational fallout, employing damage control tactics reminiscent of earlier eras. Yet social media amplifies dissent in ways impossible to contain. The question emerges: can a brand rebuild credibility while profiting from products at odds with public health imperatives? And can diversification rooted in the same infrastructure that caused past harms ever achieve genuine redemption? This chapter reveals the grim reality. Survival through diversification demands confronting historical shadows, not merely launching new SKUs. Ethically conscious empire builders must choose: perpetuate cycles of superficial adaptation, or undertake deep structural change acknowledging past and present impact. Final reflections on building empires under scrutiny and lessons from this saga. In an era of instantaneous information flow, the shadows cast by past actions emerge swiftly into the public eye. Coca-Cola remains omnipresent, a symbol of celebration, yet also a lightning rod for critique. Its saga embodies dualities: masterful branding and storytelling on one hand, and deep-seated controversies in health, labor rights, and environmental impact on the other. For those who aspire to build empires or iconic brands, these truths offer stark lessons. Let us enumerate them, each tempered by caution. Cementing an emotional bond through narrative, nostalgia, happiness, belonging can eclipse rational objections. Yet, as seen with New Coke, that bond is volatile. Tampering with core narratives risks revolt. Deep emotional connections become a double-edged sword. When stirred deliberately, they can reinforce loyalty, but when handled insensitively, they provoke backlash. Wikipedia.org. Saturating markets with messaging and presence creates familiarity. Every misstep is magnified. In the digital age, a single exposé on labor abuses or environmental harm can undermine decades of branding. Authenticity demands aligning visible messaging with actual practices. Otherwise, the gap between promise and reality becomes a chasm, eroding trust irreversibly. Introducing new products or services as solutions without addressing root problems in the legacy business breed skepticism. Superficial adaptation, e.g., launching healthy lines amid ongoing controversies, can appear as mere window dressing. True resilience requires structural change, reevaluating supply chains, reforming labor practices, and reducing environmental footprints at the source. PBS.org, Influence and Accountability. Lobbying and forging alliances with policymakers may delay regulatory actions, but they cannot indefinitely shield against public scrutiny or legal challenges. Funding research to obscure product risks or securing favorable concessions can temporarily protect profits, yet at the expense of credibility and social license to operate. Empires built on opaque influence risk collapse when revelations surface. UCS.org, Crisis as Catalyst for Genuine Change. When scandals emerge, be they health data manipulations, labor disputes, or environmental harm, responses matter. Acknowledging failures, transparently engaging stakeholders, and committing to remediation can convert crisis into opportunity for renewal. Silence or deflection deepens wounds. The choice to face past shadows rather than bury them distinguishes sustainable empires from those destined to falter. BusinessInsider.com. Beyond these principles lies a broader truth. Building an empire under scrutiny requires humility. Ambition drives innovation and scale, but must be anchored by ethical reflection and respect for human and ecological systems. The Mistress Empire reminds us, shadows inevitably accompany power, but one can walk in darkness with a light of conscience. Whereas when a brand becomes part of collective culture, it wields influence that transcends commerce, shaping behaviors, societal norms, even politics. This power demands responsibility commensurate with reach. Neglecting this duty invites retribution, legal, social, or moral. In the digital age, whistleblowers, journalists, and activists hold unprecedented reach. Concealing misdeeds grows ever more difficult. Thus, fortifying an empire means embedding transparency, accountability, and proactive engagement from inception. For entrepreneurs and visionaries, ask yourselves, what legacy do you wish to leave? A fleeting empire built on manipulative tactics may shine brightly but burn out when shadows emerge. Conversely, a brand or enterprise that weathers storms by confronting its faults can endure and even inspire trust in uncertain times. The Mistress Empire stands as a witness. Empires in darkness can thrive only when they cultivate light within. Ethical practices, respect for people and planet, genuine commitment to well-being beyond profit. The path is treacherous, yet essential. In the dance between shadows and light, choose to illuminate the dark corners of your enterprise. That is the true mark of an empire built to last. Final pause. This concludes our journey through the hidden history and lessons of a global titan. May these insights guide your own quest to create something enduring and just.